Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to do a video that is kind of in a series that I'm doing, but also kind of not. Because today I want to recommend to you books to diversify your horror reading. I think in October we are all trying to read more spooky books, creepy books, horror books, because it is Halloween time. So I hope this video will be helpful to you. Now, the whole intention behind this series, usually I do diversify your fantasy reading, but I thought I'd mix it up for October, you know. And the whole idea behind it is that I think that there are so many amazing stories out there, and a lot of people still mainly focus on reading from white male authors, especially in the fantasy and the horror genre. We do have like these big authors everyone knows about, like Grady Hendrix, Stephen King, Joe Hill, all of that. And there's nothing wrong with reading these authors and these books. However, I think if you're focusing all your reading on those, you are missing out on amazing stories that might also be a little bit different, a little bit of a fresh air in your horror reading, because they're just told from like different perspectives and they're including different life experiences. So I hope with this video I can inspire you to pick up some books written by female authors as well as authors of color. And with that, let's go into the recommendations. Now, the first book I want to recommend is a little bit of a modern classic. It also has a movie adaptation, so it's not that it is not well known. It's also one of the horror books that when I read it, and that was many years ago, it really scared me. So I really want to reread this book and see whether it still scares me now. And that would be The Woman in Black by Suzanne Hill. Now, I really enjoy Suzanne Hill's writing. It just seemed to be a little bit hit or miss though, because I see a lot of people also not liking her books for some reason. I love them. The Woman in Black is about a solicitor who has to go into kind of a rural Moor area to deal with the affairs of a woman, I think, who has passed away. And to do that, he has to go to this house that seems to be haunted by the Woman in Black. So we do have this like very traditional setup. It definitely has this very comforting feeling of a horror story you have kind of heard before, but maybe not quite in this way. It has a lot of the like typical horror tropes with like the strange noises and weird happenings in the house. And as I said, I was really scared by this book. The movie also stars Daniel Radcliffe, and I think it was one of his first movies after Harry Potter. So yeah, might be something to check out if you haven't heard of it before. There is another Suzanne Hill book that I really enjoyed, and that is a short story collection of horror stories, and that would be The Traveling Bag. I'm very sorry about my cat. She doesn't like it when I film, so she always gets a little bit naughty. So I also would recommend the short story collection, The Traveling Bag. I also really liked the stories in that one. Next up, we have another classic, and I think this is my favorite horror book, and that is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. Now, you've probably heard about The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, but I actually like We Have Always Lived in the Castle better. In this one, we have two sisters who have lost all of their family except for one uncle who is disabled, and they live alone in this big mansion outside of a village. And the people in the village, they view them with a lot of suspicion because of this tragedy that killed pretty much the whole family. And this book is very YB. I think one of the things that is very scary for me in this book is that it deals with this idea of a mob, and also with men who think they can control women. So I absolutely love this one. If you want more of the traditional haunted house story, then go with Hill House though. Speaking of haunted house stories, those are my favorite, so I do have a couple of recommendations. One would be The Good House by Tananarive. I have a whole reading vlog for this book that I did earlier this year, so I will link it down below if you want to hear all of my thoughts going through this book. This is a book that is already a little bit older. It was written in the 2000s, and I think What this book does really well is give you that nostalgic 2000s feeling without all of the problematic bullshit from that time. So I absolutely love The Good House. In this one, we have a woman who has this house that she likes to take her son to for the summer. However, something very, very dramatic and terrible happens, and it turns out that something was set free in this house many generations ago, and it is hungry. Another haunted house story, but a little bit more of an unconventional one, is Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. Now, this book is a little bit of a Marmite situation, I think. So there are people who love this book and there are people who really don't like it. I loved it, and I think you might enjoy it if you like stories where the main question is what makes a house a home. Now, in this one, we follow a woman who has a very, very difficult family history, kind of. Her father was a serial killer, and I think he's in prison still. And she moves back to the house where her mother still lives and where she grew up. And things are weird, and weird things are happening. And it's all about kind of like, yeah, returning home in the weirdest sense possible. I love this one. Next up, we have another haunting story. This one is again a little bit different, and that is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. Again, this one, I think it was quite hyped when it came out. I haven't really heard the best things about the author's other books, but I loved this one. In this one, we do have a dual timeline situation where we have an aunt and her niece, I guess, and in their like respective timelines, they are trying to figure out a mystery. So this does have a little bit of a thriller element as well, but also a kind of like ghostly element. So I would still say this is a horror, even though it does like move slightly into the thriller territory. And this one has a lot of like kind of like real life horror for women. I really loved this one. I think the atmosphere was fantastic, and I especially loved the audiobook as well. Like that gave me the creeps. Staying in the kind of thriller horror lane, we have White Horse by Erika T. Wurth. This one is by an Indigenous author, and I think you can really tell with the way the story is told. In this one, we follow a main character who has lost her mother, but one day her cousin, I think, gives her this bracelet that once belonged to her mother, and that starts kind of a haunting where she can see her mother again, but also she seems to be hunted by this monster suddenly. And this one was really, really great. I really loved it. I did a video recommending books with like really badass main characters, and that whole video was inspired by the main character in White Horse because she's really, really cool. So if you like kind of the gritty vibe, you know, the bars and the rock music and all of that, I think you might enjoy White Horse. I feel like the next book has been in every single one of these like recommendation lists, but that is because I love it so much, and that is Ring Shout by P. Djèlí Clarke. Ring Shout, I don't remember if it was my first book by this author, but definitely one of the first books that I have read from him, and I love Ring Shout so much. In this one, we look at a world where we have the Ku Klux Klan, and they are kind of infiltrated by these monsters called Ku Kluxes, and we have a team of black women who hunt these monsters. However, everything is kind of accumulating to this very big event, and the question is whether these women can actually stop what is happening. So at first it doesn't sound like very horror-y. I really love the Monster Hunter vibes we get in this one, but then we do meet kind of the final bosses, and I can tell you, those creepy fuckers will stick in your mind, like, ugh. So I really hope you try this one. I loved Ring Shout. And last but not least, we have another book where I have a whole reading vlog if you want to go and check it out in more detail, and that is The Changeling by Victor LaValle. So in this one we have a family, kind of. We have a father and a mother, and they have a child. And the father is very, very attached to the child. He's trying to be a good father, and he's like really, really happy to have this child, and he's taking like such good care of it. But then something very, very terrible happens, and the child kind of goes missing. Now, the end of this book is a little bit wild, so just prepare. It also gets these kind of like Grimm's fairy tales in the end, but I think in general this book discusses a lot of interesting topics, especially when it comes to the question of sharing stuff about your child on the internet as well, and in general like internet culture of the time when the book was written. So I really enjoyed the thematic work of this book as well, even though I wasn't like the biggest fan of the ending. So I think something I forgot to say at the beginning of the video is that all of these recommendations are adult horror books. I do also love YA horror books, especially if they're written from marginalized perspectives. So I might do a video about that in the future, but if you want to pick any of these up, they're all adult horror. And I hope there was something on this list that you're now interested in reading. Let me know in the comments which one of these might have piqued your interest, and I would love to hear your input as well. If you have any recommendations for me of horror books I really need to check out, because I know that there's like a lot out there that I haven't read yet. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye!